Hey everybody, today we're going to review the important information from the Constitutional Convention. Now, the year 1787 is going to be your fourth hot date in American history. James Madison is going to be one of the most significant people at the Constitutional Convention because he's going to be known as the father of the Constitution. Basically, he sits down and writes down all the ideas expressed at the convention and eventually writes the actual Constitution. Also in attendance are 12 states. Everyone attended except for Rhode Island, and they chose not to attend because they felt that the federal government was becoming too strong in this new Constitution. Now, the why is exactly what we just talked about. The federal government needed to be strengthened, and that was because in the Articles of Confederation, the states had too much power, the federal government was too weak, and we saw events like Shays' Rebellion where the federal government was not able to keep control over the people. Okay? It takes place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At the convention, many ideas are expressed, but one major one is how representation is going to look in the federal government under this new government. So the first plan that is suggested is the New Jersey plan. New Jersey is a smaller state, and they felt that there should just be one house of Congress, and remember, Congress is what makes our laws, the legislative branch, and they felt that every state should just have one vote. Basically, we should have equal representation in the federal Congress. Now, Virginia felt very differently. Virginia is a larger state with a larger population, so they felt that we should have 3 branches of government, 2 houses in the Congress, and that all representation should be based on population. Basically, if you're a bigger state, you should have a bigger voice. Well, they get to a standstill, and finally the state of Connecticut comes up with something called the Great Compromise. Remember that when you compromise, everybody has to give up a little bit of something in order to get something that they want. So in the Great Compromise, Congress, which again is our legislative branch, becomes bicameral. It is going to be made up of 2 houses. The lower house is called the House of Representatives, and that is based on our population. There are 435 representatives in our House of Representatives today, and again, those numbers are spread out based on whether or not you are a smaller populated state or a larger populated state. The upper house is called the Senate, and this is based on equal representation. We have 2 senators per state, so 2 times 50 equals 100. One of the other major ideas that is discussed at the Constitutional Convention is the 3/5 compromise. Now, some states went into this convention thinking that they were going to be able to ban slavery. However, 6 of the states in attendance were southern states which allowed slavery. The northern states decided it was best to not discuss banning slavery. However, the issue of slaves was going to be considered important for taxation purposes and representation. Southern states wanted slaves to be counted as humans for their representation, for their population. Okay? So that would help strengthen the southern states' numbers and would get them more of a voice in Congress. Northern states felt like, you know what, southern states, slavery is completely wrong, and you don't treat slaves like they are humans, you don't give them the same rights, so therefore you are going to have to be taxed for your property. Well, the southern states don't want to pay for these taxes, and the northern states don't feel like it is fair to give southern states more people towards their population numbers. So James Madison, the father of the Constitution, comes up with the 3/5 compromise. Basically, every time a state has 5 slaves, they will count as 3 people to be taxed and 3 people added to that state's population. Now, at the Constitutional Convention, because slavery was such a difficult and sticky topic to touch, they decided to wait several years before slavery would be discussed. So all that is mentioned in the Constitutional Convention, in the Constitution about slavery is the 3/5 compromise.